Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm sorry it's been a while, but I thought I'd bring you along as I wrap my Christmas presents. These are actually the presents from last year, but I filmed this and had it all ready, and then I completely forgot to put it up for everybody. So what I've got today is a whole bunch of gifts that I had ready for my housemate. I've got a few fun shaped items, and I really wanted them to look pretty and aesthetic under the Christmas tree. So I found this white wrapping paper, and oh my gosh, it took me forever to find this white wrapping paper, but I finally found it. I think it's from Maya. I bought the last 2 rolls they had so that I could then use fabric as the ribbon. So first things first is I took off all of the labels of pricing, because you always want to be able to give a gift and let it be unknown, you know? So this wrapping paper, yes, it's white, it still was slightly see-through, and so I've kind of doubled up on the front of each of the gifts to make sure that you can't really see what's inside until you open it. I always make sure I lay the item face down, so that way when you put it up under your tree, it's sitting perfectly. Now, I've done it as a long cut, so that way I can really make use of the double layer on the front half of the present. And I always fold the edges. Folding all the edges makes it a smoother, crisper, nicer look. And especially on this white paper, because it has that teal undertone, it really comes through if you don't fold down the edges. So this one was really interesting to wrap because it was so long. I didn't want to waste heaps of paper, but I also wanted to make sure it was covered up and you couldn't see what was inside it. So this is probably one of the only times I wrapped it upside down, essentially, so that way when it was face up and the clean side with no folds or anything was on, you got that plain white background, and that way it was super crisp. Now, this one, I was lucky it came in a box. Wrapping a ball is always super messy. There's lots of tape that goes into it, and so finding a box that holds a spherical shape, especially when it's small, makes it so much easier to wrap. You have to be really careful though, because the side kept popping inwards, and so I had to tape it really carefully. And as you saw, I just trimmed a little extra piece off of the wrapping paper because it was just slightly too long when I folded it, that it was overlapping and creating a really bad fold. This one, I probably could have put it in an envelope, but I wanted it all to match. It's always so much nicer having an aesthetically pleasing Christmas tree. Oh my goodness. I know I sound ridiculous, but that's just who I am. I'm sorry. This one here has the awkward shape. It took me a little while to figure out which kind of position I really wanted to do to make it the easiest to wrap and cleanest for the folds on the ends. I decided to go with the pentagonal side, I guess, as the ends to fold in, because then I could really help have those triangles nice and even, whereas if I'd gone the other way, it would have been really awkward and weird, and you would be able to see it from the front. Now, this one is a bunch of items. So I got a whole bunch of items from Lush, and they were all really nice, but I kind of wanted them to be a kit. And this is a box that I happen to have from some parcels that got delivered, luckily. So what I've done is I've just found this. I've recycled fake bubble wrap from another parcel, and I'm just taping the box closed gently so it's still easy to open once they've unwrapped the present. You don't want to tape it too much, because then you need scissors at Christmas and that makes it really awkward. Now this item, I was set on using this piece of fabric, but because it was so narrow, I really struggled to wrap it how I really wanted to. Usually I would choose a square piece of fabric so that I could wrap it on a diagonal a lot easier, but I was really adamant about not using any tape and I wanted to just use the fabric, but luckily I found a piece of string that helped as we get to the end. But I think I wrapped this like 20 times overall. I had an idea in my head and I really wanted it to be beautiful and highlight the fabric so much better. But I ended up wrapping it pretty much similar to how I would wrap in paper. And then I've used a nice piece of string to tie it all together so that it stays folded. I really like having the colour of the fabric and the texture of it, especially under the Christmas tree. It just adds that little extra oomph on Christmas Day. See, again, wrapping it again and again and again. This one didn't really matter too much about which was the top and which was the bottom after I decided not to tie a knot in the fabric, because that allowed me to just focus on getting it to sit nicely and look beautiful. Tying the string halfway through allowed me to have that tight fabric around the center, and so then I was able to move around a lot more and fold those edges in nicely. Now each of these presents, I mean, they're all very unique shapes, so I kind of remembered what was inside all of them. But I found these cute little brown tags that are just plain from Kmart. And so I found some really nice string, and that way I was able to add that to each present as we went along. Now this fabric, oh my gosh, I wish I still had this fabric. It was so nice. It was a good linen texture, and the fraying on the edges just made it all perfect. Because it was a textured fabric, having the fraying on the edges was really, really nice and kept within its theme. Whereas if I had a more silky or cotton-based fabric, I'd really want to fold all those edges in, and that way it wouldn't look so frayed and kind of handmade. But I love that this has got a crisp white paper with that little rustic, handmade, rough fabric as the ribbon. And to be honest, we even use this ribbon as decorations afterwards, and they're perfect for bows, and you can reuse them on presents all the time, and I just love it. I love using a different texture, not just one of those silky curling ribbons that you get on every present ever. And I love the tones. They were just beautiful, earthy, and nice. As you can see, some of them I've wrapped around like a traditional ribbon, doing the 4 sides with a bow. Some of them I've just done one row across. It's really dependent on the shape and the present itself. Some of them really needed that extra, I didn't want to cut too much ribbon off either, but some of them just needed that extra bit of length of ribbon. I was able to double wind this one, and that gave it just really cute extra touch. Having it such a narrow piece too allowed me to do that double around without it looking like it was too much fabric. And these are really simple. You just do the shoelace tie, and then you kind of wiggle the bows up and down until they sit nicely and pull them tight. Now this is where I just went in after I had added all the fabric and added all those tags. So I usually do a cross when I tie a tag on. So I'll go under 2 different edges so that way it doesn't slide along the side of the ribbon, and it sits perfectly in the middle. Now these tags are perfect because they're blank on both sides. You can add whatever you want. If you want it to be from Santa, if you want it to be from Mum and Dad, if you want it to be from whoever, doesn't matter, and you can add any piece you want to it. Well, there you go, that was all my Christmas presents from last year. I will hopefully get my presents from this year all wrapped for you, but if you have any questions or have any presents that you want help wrapping, please let me know, and I will try my very best to get them to you. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.